Thank you to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So as you can see, I have this little sketch of my OC Sato and Moriko, and I kind of wanted to do a very similar drawing style for today's session. So let's go ahead and make a new canvas. Now the canvas size is going to be not very specific, so we're going to change it in the end anyways. So let's just set it to be somewhat long and horizontal. So the plan for today's session is that I want to sketch out all of my OCs kind of like in a row, showing their kind of like fall or autumn outfits, because I feel like drawing cozy or like different clothing for your OCs can be very fun. So let's go ahead and start off with our rough sketch first. So to kind of make sure that all of them fit onto one canvas, I am going to be planning pretty much all of their poses and hopefully their height differences kind of correctly before we commit to our actual sketching portion, or I guess our cleaner sketch in this case. So I don't know if this is going to be kind of spoilers, but the order that I'm going to be drawing them in is the same order that I ended up doing the Inktober prompts, I guess I did for my OCs. So on Monday's video, you would have saw, I think, Sato's, a very sneak peek of Akemi, and then you would have saw Koji and Moriko very briefly as well. But the order, so that people don't get confused, so from left to right for this drawing session before we actually start to sketch them out properly, is going to be Masaki, then Kaisen, then... oh, I guess I didn't do them in order. So Koji's next and then Moriko. So in my Inktober, I actually have them flipped so that Moriko is third. But I wanted, I guess like, it'll make sense in a bit. So yeah, Masaki, Kaisen, Koji, Moriko, and then after Moriko, which I had trouble sketching her for a pose, so I ended up not staying with this pose and changing it to something different. So I kind of have like the first three characters interacting a little bit more, and then the last three characters interacting together more or less, so that they're kind of broken up into 3 and 3. So after Moriko, we have my OC Sato, and then last but not least, we have Akemi at the very end. I ended up not adding in Hansuke, who's like my little cat mascot guy, alongside with Akemi's siblings, as well as Selwyn. I'll end up drawing them a little bit more probably towards the end of this year when I can flesh them out, but as of right now, I'm sticking up with kind of like the 6 OCs that I tend to draw the most anyways. So to kind of like briefly talk about their poses, we have Masaki kind of leading, Kaisen with the arm around the shoulder getting pushed by Koji, and then we have Moriko, which I'm going to change her arm positioning a little bit later, linked arms with Sato, and then Sato is holding hands with Akemi with him behind. So I think that's kind of the sequence that we have, and just keeping it nice and rough. And I'm going to go ahead, lower the opacity and change the canvas size, and then shortly we can get to the actual cleaner sketch for today's session. With our rough sketch done, let's take a small break and have a snack or two with our sponsor TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. TokyoTreat is a fun, exclusive Japanese snack box featuring unique and exclusive flavors straight from Japan. Each box is filled with a variety of full-size Japanese snack items like limited edition Kit Kats, which are one of my favorites, unique flavored Japanese chips, and occasional Japanese sodas that are only available in Japan for a limited time. I always think that Halloween-themed snacks are one of the cutest, so I'm glad to show you guys all these really cute snacks in this box. While Sakuraco is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local Japanese snack makers, the box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware. The tableware for this month's box is the floral Kama Nyumoni, which is kind of like a Japanese teacup, and this one is adorning this really beautiful blue and yellow design. I also like the height of this cup. I feel like it's just the perfect size to hold. Both boxes also come with a 24-page cultural guide, and I love that it includes information regarding ingredients and allergens of each of the snacks, but also informs you a little bit of tidbits of information revolving around culture and traditions in Japan. So if you're ever interested on how Japan celebrates Halloween or about the art of kimono crafting, then give these booklets a very good read. Each month also has a different theme, meaning that you get to try out a whole new selection of new treats and snacks every month. For example, TokyoTreat's box theme for the month of October is the Snacktastic Halloween, while Sakuraco's theme is the Colors of Kyoto. As much as I love green tea, sometimes I don't like it as strong, so I did not add boiling water this time around and only steeped it for a few seconds. So for the tea, even though I didn't steep it as long with like boiling hot water, the color was very bright and I could never go wrong with such a nice green tea. So this one has been very lovely to taste. And as for the snacks, the apple pie Kit Kat is a must for the fall season. It has so much of like that apple pie flavor that I would not be able to tell that it was a Kit Kat. Also, the spooky spicy crackers were very fun too. They have that kind of numbing spice that's almost like minty feeling. So if you've ever had certain types of peppercorns, it's very much that similar spice, which I really enjoyed. Also, for Sakuraco, I can't wait to try the matcha pudding. I didn't get to try it right here, but I did try the matcha cream roll cookie and the soba boro, which is such a cute little snack right here. It's the shape of a flower. So if you would like to get yourself a box or want to give it to your friends or family as a lovely gift, especially during the time of the spooky month or just to celebrate that fall is right here now, then check out the link in the description to get your boxes today. Thank you again to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the sketching. So now we're back with the clean sketch. So I've already resized the canvas to be at least like significantly bigger because the size of the brush that I noticed that I was using for my sketching was a little bit too large and it seemed like everything was going to look a little bit pixelated. So I decided to size up my canvas early so that when I actually do my cleaner sketch, we're not making everything look fuzzy. It's just basically my rough sketch is going to be blown up and might be not as clear, but that's a-okay. So after that, lower the opacity and we can just sketch over top of our little bases right here. And I'll make some like changes here and there, and I'm going to have to adjust some of their heights a little bit. Out of like all of my OCs, I definitely think Masaki was the easiest to draw. I did have a little bit of issues with Akemi, and a little bit with Kaisen. You're gonna see his proportions are gonna look so funky, and you're gonna have to imagine some of them might have to be standing on apple boxes to be similar in height. But I did have to refer back to my Inktober prompt to look for what I gave Kaisen for his outfit, because I'm always stumped on how he would dress, because at least in my mind, I always think that he would want to dress very kind of like loose and very easy so that it's like he doesn't take too much time, nor do I feel like he likes being in clothing that's very tight or like very fitting. So he likes stuff that's a little bit looser, more flowy. But for winter and for fall, since it's more on the cooler side, I'm not too sure how well that would work. So I did end up giving him a very similar top to what I'm wearing right now, which is kind of like a half zip up sweater, I guess. But instead of like a hoodie-ish material, I'm giving him kind of like a sweater material, so it's a little bit more thicker and probably warmer. And hopefully that would fit more closer to his aesthetic. After that, we have Koji, which typically the outfit that I tend to draw him most is actually supposed to be his autumn wear versus like his original design, so his might look super unchanged. After that, we have Moriko, which I had a lot of fun drawing her outfit, and I initially saw the outfit on Pinterest where it was kind of like a loose knit cardigan, but it's like almost like a cropped cardigan, but they had like puffy sleeves, and the person was wearing just like more so like a long, I think it might have been like a turtleneck almost underneath their cardigan with some like slacks or something. But I decided to change Moriko to be like crop top along with like a cropped tank top underneath, and then have her bellowy sleeves so that she can kind of match with Sato as well. And I think I talked about it in Monday's video, but color scheme wise, I tried my best to pick colors that fit with their color schemes, but I was leaning more towards wanting things to look very more neutral colored or muted, because I feel like those colors fit super well into fall or have like just more of a warmer tone overall. But for characters like Kaisen, who wears majority black, I did not really alter his colors too much. I think Akemi's colors don't change as much either, and then I changed Sato's probably the most and a little bit more of Moriko as well because I kind of flip her palette a little bit different, and then for Sato I kind of get rid of her cooler colors completely and change things to be more earthier just because I think it looks very cute and it kind of matches her aesthetic for, I guess, just for the fall season, so kind of works out in the end. But with that, we basically have our clean sketch kind of finished. So after this, I end up changing my sketch color, and I've also set this kind of layer to multiply so that any colors we add underneath will change the lines appropriately. So to fill everything, I am using the freehand selection tool in Procreate, and then we'll use the color fill option, which unfortunately did not work, so we'll have to manually color this selection in, which is no problem at all. And I'm gonna fill it kind of with a base color. So usually I pick the skin tone, but because we have multiple characters, I'm gonna pick kind of like the average color between all of them and then do some of the individual skin tones for certain characters separately. But this is kind of like a nice base so that we can alpha lock this layer and then keep every kind of like coloring, shading, lighting, everything like that kind of contained within this kind of first color fill. I did end up changing the background to be a lot warmer because I did not like how grayish, dullish it looked compared to the rest of the characters, so I ended up changing it. But the thing is like when I'm adding the color, I'm keeping it a little bit more on the simple side. So at the very beginning of the video, I showed you guys the little colored sketch of my OC Sato and Moriko together. And the thing I like about that one is that I chose a little bit of brighter colors for certain parts of the sketch and then ended up doing thicker, darker lines for certain areas. And it kind of gives it a different look that I kind of like a little bit better than having to finish and rendering everybody to a certain degree or leaving it too super rough and it looking too messy. So I think it's a nice in-between, but I definitely wanted something a little bit bolder so that I wouldn't be too compelled to, you know, end up rendering and trying to finish everything in a very clean manner. Also kind of wish that I made Kaisen's sweater a little bit more baggier and a little longer. His legs look super long here and I do apologize, but I do think it's like also because his body's being raised up because he's lifting his arms for clearance of Koji's head. So I wanted to make sure that it kind of looked like that, but with the knees kind of being cut off where I guess like where everyone's cut off is kind of like at their knees, so it's kind of hard to determine height properly because if they're different heights, I don't think their kneecaps would all line up perfectly. So I feel like some of the girls would be on apple boxes. I feel like Koji will definitely need a few apple boxes to be in similar height, but for the most part, I don't think... I remember there is like a website that you can kind of record your height of your characters on a height chart in a way. I might have to dig around for it, but I did end up putting Masaki, Koji, Akemi, and Sato on there, I believe. So I will go quickly check to see if I have their canonical heights, and then maybe I can add in Moriko and Kaisen. So unfortunately, I did do some digging right now and I could not find the app, nor could I find the saved image that I had for their heights. So if I remember correctly, now I don't think I will have Koji's correct, but Masaki I think is 178 centimeters. I'm Canadian, so I'm using centimeters by the way. And then I think Akemi is 181-ish. He's in like 6 foot territory, if that helps you guys. And then I have Sato around, I think 165. So she's near my height. And then we have Moriko, which I think she's gonna be slightly taller than Sato. So maybe 167, 166 of that kind of range. I think Koji is either like 150. He's not super tall, but he's also a kid, so I wasn't too sure how to appropriately size him. And then I think Kaisen will be like maybe 185-ish, maybe. I think like once I get into actually doing maybe like drafts of like mini comics and stuff or like little one-shots, maybe I'll do like a little intro page where I can make like a profile for each of them and I can put like the actual information more appropriately. But in terms for drawing, I went ahead and switched the sketch color to be something a little bit darker and more saturated. And then I'm going to select some areas, usually near the face, to really intensify some of the color. And then we'll change eye color as well to be not so dark. And then we can have them more appropriately fit each of the characters. But you can kind of see that like as I'm changing the sketch color to be more appropriately matching certain areas, I am also going ahead and erasing some of those like stray sketchier lines that I don't really need, because even though I don't want to spend too much time doing like intense amount of cleanup, I don't want it to look super duper messy. So we're kind of finding a good in between. And one thing is like to make everything a little bit more simple. So like simple shapes for the shading, not too many changes of color, all that stuff, usually thicker or bolder line work. But like for me, I like getting rid of like a lot of the stray lines in general. I do think that one area I kind of forgot to really touch up at the very end is Sato's face. So for the most part, everyone else is going to get a good amount of just fixing up. So that is the kind of phase we're in. So I'm going to go ahead and merge down my sketch onto the colors, and then we can go ahead and start to clean up and make everything look just a tad bit cleaner than it was before. But I did try to make sure that when I was changing the colors for the sketch, I was trying to leave the outside areas of majority of all the characters to have kind of like a darker color to outline everything. But then certain areas that I wanted to be a little bit softer, I like adding in the contrast by hand or like, afterwards, just to make certain things stand out. So you can see that for like Masaki's face, some areas have that nice deep kind of bright reddish orange color, and then I take a very dark brown and kind of shade in or darken up certain corners or like edges, not ledges, and then try to make sure that things kind of stand out without overtaking some of the lighter colors that I ended up leaving in anyways. Because not only is it good for me to kind of like learn how to not over render things, but it's good for, I think, like visually, it's a little bit more interesting when everything is just not one color throughout in terms of the line work. So having those areas of like intense color or softer color just kind of help balance some things out, especially for like certain features, or if you want something to stand out among the rest, then make it darker, bolder will kind of work in your favor that way. But as I'm kind of working on doing the cleanup phase, let me talk a little bit about each of the kind of like outfits that I did choose for each of them. So I already kind of mentioned that I like chunkier sweaters and like kind of like of the knit variety, if anything. So I tend to draw a lot of my OCs with that kind of, it's like specific attire. So Masaki, like I mentioned, was a little bit easier. So I've already drawn him in like winter outfits as well as like fall attire, spring attire, you name it. Actually, let me know. Do you guys, when you make an OC and it's kind of like that time of year, or if it's like specific to your story, do you change their outfits depending on the weather, or do they like permanently stay in a specific outfit that's like tailored specifically for them, if that makes sense? Because I do like having each of my OCs to have like, a specific look, but it's nice to have them have a actual wardrobe that I can draw them in other outfits that might fit better for certain like illustrations or certain scenarios, I guess. So for Masaki, I guess like for his fall outfit, I've always drawn him either with actually, it's usually a kind of like beige or khaki colored light cardigan over top of a darker turtleneck, which is typically kind of like a forest green, a dark muted green of some sort. And I kind of like to think that the turtleneck's kind of like of that thinner material, while the kind of sweater on top is a thicker material, so it kind of keeps him warm, but he can take it off if he feels too hot, because at least for me, apologies if you don't have autumn temperatures or weather in your area. I know some people don't get like the typical 4 seasons, but where I live in Canada, we do typically get 4 seasons. Sometimes our spring and our autumn or fall is kind of short due to winter taking up too much time. So sometimes it starts too early, so it cuts into fall, and sometimes it stays too long, so it cuts into spring. but I like the weather for fall, so it's kind of like just chilly enough. Typically, sometimes like in the early morning as well as like towards the late afternoon to the evening, it gets kind of chilly, but sometimes it gets a little too warm. So I like being able to have my OCs have that option to kind of layer up. So for Masaki, typically that color combination looks great. Sometimes I go a little bit darker if we go into winter. So sometimes a dark green leaning almost into black with a even darker kind of more chestnut brown sweater on top or something of that sort is what I draw Masaki in as we get closer to the colder months. And then for Kaisen, like I mentioned, I did have a hard time doing him. So his was a little bit hard for me to determine how much do I want to stray away. I was even thinking that it wouldn't change drastically until it gets to winter. So right now we just have him kind of with a half zipped up sweater type of scenario. I do like the idea that it could be a turtleneck if he zipped it up all the way and it could cover like the lower part of his face when he gets annoyed, but you know, maybe I'll draw that in the future. But his is very much just like black or darker clothing for his entire, I guess, like wardrobe for the most part. I definitely will draw him in other outfits in the future because I do love doodling him. And then moving along, I mentioned that Koji's current outfit that I like to draw him in is actually his winter, like fall-ish outfit anyways, because I don't draw him with the vest as much as I do with this kind of looser sweater and hoodie combination. I just think it looks cute with the gray sleeves, kind of the red sleeves and the kind of like a gray base with a blue hoodie underneath. I think it just plays with his color combination in a cute way because it's so color blocky. But yeah, you probably have seen him in this outfit before, so it's not really anything new per se. But then moving along, we have Moriko. So Moriko's outfit, I had like a lot of fun just playing around with the colors. And I did lean her away from having too much black in her outfit like she does in her usual outfit. So she typically wears a lighter top, so kind of like a very light green, leaning a little bit towards like kind of like a blue-green almost, which is like kind of like a crop top. And then she has a kind of like a biker leather jacket with kind of like, I was gonna say not sweats or like hiking pants per se. It's like a certain type of like tech wear pants. I'm not too sure how to describe it, but it's like the ones that you can wear like belts as well as like many pockets kind of style. And then for her current outfit for fall, I wanted to go the opposite and go a little bit more airier and lighter. So she has very puffy sleeves that are more like knit kind of patterning. It might be a little bit more like loose, and it's kind of like also cropped. So I don't know. I feel like it would just give her a lot of movement compared to if I gave her something like too thick and a little bit too restricting, if anything. And then moving on to the next character, we have Sato. So Sato's definitely deviated more from her color palette than usual in a different direction, I guess. Because technically Moriko did too, but it's kind of going, instead of black, we went white. For Sato, instead of changing her base color, which I think is kind of like a white and a blue, instead of changing the white, I decided to change kind of like that bluish green color that she typically wears, or like the navy color, into a brown, which at least for me, it feels very fall and autumny. So I kind of wanted to switch that up and make her entire color palette very warm. And I don't know why, at least for me, when people wear braids, I always think like it's towards like the colder months. So like people wearing like a lot of braids that are like thick or kind of like short braids too, I think is super cute for fall. And then for winter, I feel like I see like more tighter braids as well. I'm not too sure, maybe I'm just like going crazy, but I thought braids would suit Sato really well and I thought it would look really cute. And I kind of like drawing her with the braids more so than her usual hairstyle, but I'll play around with her hair in the future because that's usually my main gripe when drawing her. But last but not least, we have Akemi. So Akemi, I ended up just keeping him very simple, like similar to the rest of the boys. They got more of a simple treatment just because I do not know where to expand their clothing technically in terms of like style. I will definitely love to look more at like male fashion or just fashion in general to see how I can style their clothing. So for Akemi, because he typically wears a turtleneck, like a thinner turtleneck sweater with a dress shirt over top and then kind of like more tight fitting pants. I decided to change mostly his top so he can keep a collared shirt, but then I decided to give him a sweater on top instead. Kind of gives a little bit more of that studious look, if anything, but still comfy and cozy. And I don't know. For the entire drawing in general, I think my favorite is probably the last three OCs that I drew, so Moriko, Sato, and Akemi. I just think they look super cute together. So obviously Sato and Moriko are best friends, and then we have Sato with Akemi, who they are dating, so I wanted them to be a little bit cute and, you know, hold hands and kind of looking at each other in a cute way. So, and then the other three are kind of, they're kind of like fooling around low-key. But it kind of made me realize, because the way how I ended up drawing the order, I think in my mind I wanted to draw them in the same order that I drew them in for my Inktober. But the reason why I switched Moriko and Koji is that I haven't really thought about how Koji would interact with Moriko per se. I feel like Moriko would love to tease probably Koji, or like they would tag team and tease Kaisen. But I thought it'd be easier for me to put Moriko behind and then have her interacting with Sato and Akemi rather than the other three, just because I think it's a little bit easier. But I think that's it for today's video. So I ended up putting a little squiggle into the background, putting a drop shadow. I ended up also putting a little white outline around all the characters just because I thought it would be easier to stand out from the background. And I think it turned out really cute. I definitely will try my best to draw all of them in the future again. Not only like this, actually maybe for the winter I'll do something similar again and we can draw new outfits for them. But I would love to draw more kind of like interacting poses or just drawings where all of my OCs are like, you know, interacting with one another, and maybe some of them haven't really interacted with some of each other, so it'd be fun to think up scenarios or drawings for them. So I'll definitely try to do that in the future and maybe do another OC scenario drawing video where you guys can suggest more scenarios for them. But you can kind of see how the style came out for today's drawing, kind of more simple, still a little messy, but overall still very cute. So I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. So thank you for watching me draw my lovely OCs and also giving them a lot of love. Bye!